Hi everyone, welcome to episode 33 of PopCultX. Hope you guys are having a great week this week. Once again, I'm your co-host Daniel, and along with me, perpetually,
I'm Gabriel. And I'm cursed.
Why are you cursed?
For all eternity to be with you and Danny on this podcast.
Yes.
Perpetuity.
Yes, that is your curse to live forever and do this podcast with me once a week.
Oh,
yes.
man.
I'm glad you find it a curse, not a blessing, so that's great.
Blessing, curse?
Yeah.
There's a thin line, right, between a blessing and a curse.
There is. I guess
Kinda.
it all depends upon who it's coming from, right? We'll see. One man's blessing is another man's curse.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of curses and blessings, in Hot Topics, as of right now, is the whole debacle, which is the Travis Scott concert down in Texas.
The Astro World, yeah.
Yeah. We kind of debated about whether or not we wanted to talk about it, because obviously it's a really sad story. There were, I think, 8 people that died due to what they're calling mismanagement of the concert and not having enough security or safety precautions and measure. Really, when I heard the story, I kind of reflected back to when I was going to concerts when I was a kid. And I remember it being an issue that where I'm from in Tucson, they actually stopped a lot of concerts that were like R&B and hip hop related because of the perceived risk associated with that type of music. And I remember people like protesting and saying that it was like discriminatory in practice. But if you remember, I believe that it was like in New York, there was like I want to say Sean Combs concert where people were trounced or, is it called trounced? I don't know. Walked over.
Trampled.
Trampled. Yeah. I think I'm mixing words together. Trampled. And I remember being scared as a young person, because I remember what it was like to be in like the front row and
and the surges and pushing. Yeah.
Yeah. And like at certain points, like your chest starts to hurt because you're like up against the bar, and then being kind of thinking, oh man, what would happen if there was like an emergency or like I had to get out? Like it's pretty much impossible. And security isn't really helping you because they're there to protect the act. And it just reminded me of how scary it is to be kind of young and in a situation where you're up against a crowd and not really knowing what to do. And so I felt really bad. And it's a really unfortunate event that occurred. So my heart goes out to the friends and family of the people that lost their lives, and hopefully more precautions will be put in place so that things like this don't happen again.
I mean, I guess I read that like Live Nation has a history of these sort of mismanagements, and now I can't speak for it because I don't know exactly what happened in this instance and in the past instances. But from the reports I read, I guess the police chief of Houston met with Travis Scott and his head of security team, and he addressed his concerns about the, I guess, crowd size or just the placement or whatnot. But I guess the thing that really bothered me about that was, isn't that the police chief's job or like the fire marshal's job is to either A, like you said, shut it down, or, limit the size of it so these type of tragic instances don't happen? I mean, is it really incumbent upon the artist or the artist management team who are performing at this venue to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen? I don't know. I guess I was a little amazed that the head of police chief would say, yeah, I met with him and I said my concerns, but he didn't do anything.
Right. And ultimately, isn't that who is held responsible? The people that are put in place for, city or counties, states, that is their job to make sure that those safety measures are put into place. I know that Travis Scott in particular is getting a lot of pushback or, a lot of negative attention right now. But I kind of think, how is an artist responsible for what occurs at their concert? Obviously, like he's the talent, but he must employ someone, a manager, roadie, tour manager, someone who's in charge of that. I doubt that it is Travis Scott that's making the decisions
Right,
of
exactly.
we're going to hire this particular. I mean, obviously he's like the face of the tour or the event because he's the artist, but it's not like he's sitting there making those decisions because as an artist, how would he know what safety is necessary or what sort of precautions are required? So I think it's somewhat unfair for people to direct all of their anger towards him and holding him personally responsible when it's obviously a team. Like there are people that put on the events that, I don't know much about where it was held, but I'm assuming that there's someone that probably facilitates that
Yeah,
venue.
exactly.
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying exactly. You're right.
Yeah. And so where were they? Where's the tour manager? Where are, the securities? Obviously, they paid someone to do security. They have to have, I'm sure, paramedic and law enforcement there. So, and it's just, I think that with general admission, you're always going to have young people get really excited and rush towards the stage and want. So just eliminate that. Have it all assigned seatings. I used to love being in general admission when I was younger. Now it's more of like a hassle because I don't want people to touch me, and so it would be nice to be able to have everyone really close to the stage, but obviously due to the nature of young people, they don't really know what is safe and what's not safe and how to act like that in public in a space like that. And so eliminate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it all assigned and there's no rush to get in because you know where your seat is and you have to stay in that assigned area and that's it. You know, and you watch the concert from your seat.
Exactly. I mean, that's one way of limiting things like this from occurring. And just hopefully we can, as a society, I guess, because there's also the side of it where the people who are responsible for pushing, hopefully they learn a lesson too from this, where, I can't be doing this in a public event. I can't be doing this because something tragic might happen. So it's hopefully a learning curve for everyone involved.
Yeah. There was another thing that is, I'm not a sports guy, so I don't know who the name is. Is it Aaron Rodgers? That's like in the media. So maybe you know more about it. Like I caught the story secondhand. So maybe you can go into what he did, but I caught it from his girlfriend or fiance's point, like when she got involved, that's what got my attention. So maybe you can summarize what you know of how he got.
So what I know of it, and okay, what I know of it really is, so Aaron Rodgers, I guess he was asked if he was vaccinated, and he said, I'm immunized against COVID-19, because I guess players have to be vaccinated for the NFL or they risk fines or whatnot. And so he said he was immunized against it, meaning he was talking, out of his ass because he didn't really get the vaccine. He built up antibodies. I guess he was following the Joe Rogan plan of treatment for immunization. Whatever the heck that is, I don't know. Yeah. But Terry Bradshaw, former NFL Hall of Famer, Pittsburgh Steeler, great quarterback, and very opinionated, he said, no, you lied. You lied to us. You lied to America. And he really gave him a strong piece of his mind, which I appreciated because it needed to be said. And I'm glad someone said it on live TV that actually has a voice or opinion in that matter. Yeah.
So the way I heard of it is I saw his fiance, who's an actress on, I think, an HBO show. She was in, I think, a movie where it was like based on a book, like very Twilight. I'm not super aware of her. I think her name is like Shailene or Raylene or Taylene or something like that. I don't know. And she's about like kind of swinging at the media saying like, you're trying to make this more than what it is. His statements are being, misconstrued and taken out of context. And I think that looking at her Twitter, she is very opinionated, very vocal about certain issues. And I think that you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, we're just an athlete, we're just an actress, don't pay mind to what we say. But then, just 2 months ago, you were saying, pay attention to me and what I have to say when it comes to this political, this particular issue that she was talking about. So it's funny for me that she's anti-media now all of a sudden when she's been using it to her advantage for her career. And yeah, I get you can be upset that maybe things are getting blown out of proportion, but I tend to think that that when things like this happen, why don't they just kind of take a couple steps back, take a moment to like regroup? But stars who get caught in controversies a lot of times end up just kind of doubling down and then not shutting up, which it always kind of freaks me. It shocks me that they don't have media people or handlers that say, okay, go take a long weekend, go relax with your fiance. Don't go on Twitter. Don't make any more other comments, and let the discourse die down, and you'll come back to it if you need to. But let's just let it die down for a second.
Yeah.
But they tend to not do that. They tend to like go to TMZ and just start making comments, and it's just like it is gonna get blown out of proportion, and you're adding gasoline to the fire. One of the things that you mentioned that I, when kind of looking into the issue, is that Aaron said that he is educated, that he did his research, that he talked to Joe Rogan and took his advice. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like,
the great Dr. Joe Rogan.
And I also talked to medical doctors. But the fact that you mentioned Joe Rogan first is like, it seems so unreal that Joe Rogan is taking the lead in this moment of pandemic expert and taking medication that's meant for animals. And it's just crazy to me that there's guys that are listening to him, and I can't even imagine. It's like Howard Stern back in the day during his popularity, peak of his popularity. He wasn't giving medical advice.
No.
Like, and now it's like the lines are blurred between people who have power because they have popularity and they have, their opinion is listened to, but just stay in your own lane, stay in entertainment. Why are you getting involved in things that you don't know about? Even on a personal level, if Joe Rogan decided, okay, for me, I'm not going to get vaccinated. Don't tell people. Know that your voice matters and is going to have an impact on people, and know that you're not going to be able to express what you've researched. Let's say Joe Rogan, we take his word and has talked to numerous medical doctors and they've made an educated decision for him. But is he eloquent and educated enough to then be able to reiterate what those doctors said for the mass audiences to understand it? No, he's going to give a filtered, dumbed down version. And then people listen to that. They're not going back to their doctors with that information and saying, oh, this is what I heard from a podcaster or, media notorious, comedian or whatever. And that's what's kind of scary. And that's what is kind of sad with this day and age, is that like, I don't go and look for like my favorite comic book artist and ask them, what did you do regarding the vaccination? I'm going to follow your lead.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
How does it make sense that people are like turning towards the worst possible person for you to, like, if you want to start a podcast, go ask Joe Rogan. If you want to be safe and healthy, maybe go talk to someone else.
Go talk to your doctor. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know. It cracked me up. Like, I was just like, and then with the actress, his fiance, it's like, I get you being loyal and you sticking up for your fiance, but like I said, maybe just take a beat, take a moment, and just let it die down. Because now they're making fun of you. Now they're going to go dissect everything you say, and you could have, made the choice to just be quiet and not say anything, and not give them anything to feed off. So, it's. Yes, the media is a monster, but like, you can't expect to feed said monster and then not get bitten and not get involved in that whole mess. Like, give me a break. So anyway, that was the thing. There was, some other controversies with some other famous people that on Twitter and on Instagram, one being Chris Pratt. I know we were talking off air about that, and I think that it sort of comes into play with what we're talking about with Aaron Rodgers. But just briefly to summarize what he did is he posted a picture of him and his wife like looking lovingly into his eyes and him looking away from her towards the camera, and then basically posting what some consider a very misogynistic post saying, "Oh, look at the way my wife is staring at me," and really making it about him. It's about her birthday, but like, look at what she does for me. She does everything for me and I don't do anything for her. And then specifically what really kind of pissed people off is that he said, she gave me a healthy baby girl. And
yes. Yeah.
People took that in reference to his son from Anna Faris, who he famously cheated on and then divorced. And that child is considered to, I guess, have medical issues. So people thought that was some like a little bit of a dig at Anna Faris, like, this wife gave me a healthy kid. I think that I don't think that he had any, evil sentiment when it came to that. I think that that's just normally what you say to a spouse, like, "Oh, you gave me a healthy baby, a healthy kid. Like, I'm so happy our kid is healthy." And I don't think in that moment he was thinking, my other kid. Again, maybe you should have someone that is like your media person that writes those things for you. And then like, before you hit send, Chris, like, let me go ahead and read it through for you. Let me get those typos and maybe say, yeah, this sounds a little weird. Like, why don't we delete that part or rewrite it so that people can't misconstrue it? They have the money to pay for those people.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't do it. I honestly don't. The other thing in it that was, kind of, he likes to not brag, but he likes to bring up like him being a Christian now, and it rubs people the wrong way because, like, I guess, I don't know if it's fact or not, but like the conversation is that he cheated on his first wife, and now he's just like, Jesus, this, that, and the other, and so it comes off as a little hypocritical, and it's like, just talk about your movie or like put your account on private and just like, do you really need your fans to see every in and out moment of your life?
That's the thing, though, with social media. It's that double-edged sword there. So you want to stay relevant, right? So you need to showcase more than just what you're acting or your movie that you're promoting, because it's not just pure promotion. You're also selling yourself, right? So that means the more intimate look behind the curtains of your life. Unfortunately, like you said, maybe he should get a proofreader or someone to gloss over it before he posts it. But at the same token, it's less authentic that way, I think, maybe. And yes, the good comes with the bad if you do if you do something idiotically like my healthy child, because that was something maybe he should have considered more about. I think the rest of the post was, that's fine if that's his family. I've forgotten about that part, the healthy child part. And that when I read that was like, ooh, that can be construed the wrong way. I mean, like you said, it probably wasn't any ill intent to it, but just the fact that people could read it the way they wanted to see it and see it as a dig at Anna Faris and his other child with her. And it's just, that was kind of cringy.
Yeah. And I think that when people get to a certain level of stardom, it gets kind of cringy for me that they use social media so much, because you've already got the fans, you've already got the adulation. Like I could see like, regular people who go to Instagram and they get their kicks off of people liking it and they get a little bit of a feedback and it's cool. But I like stars like Angelina Jolie that like keeps the mystery about their life. Okay. They keep it private. Mm-hmm. You don't see pictures of her with like her kids on Twitter and Instagram, and it just, for me, it keeps a mystique and a mystery about her that always intrigues me and makes me want to learn more about her by watching her movies, or, she reads, makes a statement or a book. And then so it creates that more of a demand for me to want to see more from her versus someone that is just like oversharing at every single moment. And it's like, okay, I get it.
Well, on the other edge of that, just sorry to cut you off there, but, So I think maybe it's a way of them taking back the power from like the paparazzi or from like the TMZs of the world who are going to run stories about them that may or may not be factual. So they go ahead and they showcase what their life is because it's they want to get it out there from their point of view.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think about Robert Downey Jr. also posted a picture with his wife, and he was like putting a crown on her head or something like that, fake crown. And I thought, oh, that's a nice picture. That's a nice sentiment that way. So just to, kind of weigh the differences between the two.
Well, and that to me is a normal sentiment that you would give to someone for their birthday. And I know that he's within the realm of comedy. I don't think he's like Chris Pratt is like a comedian, but that's how he got his start, is like in roles that were comedic in a sense. So I get that he's trying to be funny and sarcastic, and the wife probably gets his sense of humor. But again, you're not sharing it with your wife, you're sharing it with the world.
Exactly.
And it comes off as very misogynistic. His mother-in-law, Maria Shriver, posted underneath the picture, like, oh, that's really cute. Now share a picture of you looking at her like that. Meaning, oh, she's so devoted to you and looks at you lovingly. Now you do the same. And ultimately, Maria Shriver made a comment in support of him and saying, we love you. You're a great son-in-law, blah, blah, blah. But in the moment she did, I mean, she's an intelligent person. She realized how it came off. And he should have done that. He should have saw that once people started reacting, and there was a ton of people reacting, that he could have gone in and edited and said, look, it was a joke. Like, I love my wife. Like, what I was trying to convey is that she does so much for me and she gets so little back. Not that I don't do anything back, because she doesn't deserve anything, but she's just a very giving person. And that to me would have been kind of a sweet sentiment, but it came off very like narcissistic and arrogant. And maybe you don't want that as like a leading man. And I don't, it was kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of his anyway, because he goes to a church that is kind of homophobic and still believes in conversion therapy, which is a total, like, I'm in shock that still exists to today, and that he would find that would be okay. So that makes me not a fan of his. So I'm like not looking forward to anything that he comes, that he's going to be in. I probably will see the new Guardians of the Galaxy, because I love Zoe Saldana, or Saldana as she is correctly named. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of his now.
So you won't be watching the Garfield movie or Super Mario Brothers movie?
I actually love Garfield, but I loved the comic strip when I was a kid. Like, I used to read those books like all the time. I had like a ton of them. You remember they were like
the Jim Davidson ones like this? Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to have like so many volumes of those, and I would like crack up. Like, that was like any character that has a like sarcastic smart ass, like Daffy Duck, Garfield. Like, I loved it because I was like me. I loved that. And so I'm not a fan of the movies, because I don't think they capture that sensibility all that well. I did like the cartoon, I think, when I was a kid, when it came out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go rush out and see it, but I think that the Super Mario thing, I think if they try to do it as a humor, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be all that great. I mean, Chris Pratt is playing
a humorous movie.
He's playing Mario.
Yeah.
So Mario is what? Short and Italian and older, and Chris Pratt is none of those things. I mean, I guess he's older because he's getting old, but I don't know. Maybe they should have got someone that fits that bill a little bit better.
Well, it's animated, right? It's going to be animated.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's just doing the voice.
So is he going to have like a fake Italian accent or like a New York accent?
I have no idea which way they're going to roll with it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. But speaking again about, I mentioned Angelina Jolie and how like intrigued I am by her, and I love her. I saw The Eternals this weekend, of course. Like, I rushed out to see it. And obviously we've talked about the controversy that a lot of people were bitching and moaning about it, the diverse cast. So just to share my experience with you and with our audience, I went in with really high hopes. Like, I love the cast. I have to admit that when I first saw Makari, who is the deaf actress that is playing the Eternal, who is, hearing impaired, and she first signed and another character like signed back to her and they communicated, I kind of got the chills. Like I was like,
Nice.
it was such a cool moment, like to see that on film in like a heroic way. And I just thought, God, how impactful and how powerful it must be for people who are hearing impaired to be able to see that. I love seeing Salma Hayek on the screen, like in a hero capacity and leader of the Eternals. I love Angelina Jolie, so of course I loved seeing her and all the other characters. I would say like the main role is probably Cersei, who is played, I don't know her name, but she's an Asian English actress. Having like the lead role played by an Asian actress and not being, the exotic love interest, like just being a superhero and the lead is great. Having an African American gay person in a hero capacity also was amazing. There's a moment in the movie where, not spoiling it for anyone, but he shares like an intimate moment with his husband in the film, and they sort of embrace and kiss. And apparently Disney got some communication from some Muslim countries, I think like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, heard
like
about that.
Saying, if you want us to play this film, you have to edit this out. Like, we're not going to show it with two men kissing. And Disney was like, okay, well, fuck off. We're not going to edit it. Like, it is what it is. Like, we don't need your money. Exactly. And I love that Disney did that. I really like that. What's interesting to me, though, is that there is a love, like an actual like sex scene in the movie, and the two characters are like semi-naked. You can't see anything because it's still a Disney film, but there's some nudity. Like, I mean, not when I say nudity, like it's implied nudity, I guess. They were okay with that. So like, where's your like strong religious conviction when it comes to seeing, two people having sex on the beach? Like so it's situational, like it's pick and choose. So like, that's why I always like kind of have to call bullshit on religious people, because you pick and choose your like the stuff. And it's like, if you're going to be like high and mighty and want to be all religious, and by all means go ahead, but then don't be like okay with some things and then try to like get an invite to the party. Like, if you want to be an outsider and be weird and like religious, like do that, but like do it and be the loner in your house and not partake in anything else, because that's like be Amish. Like, I respect Amish people. This is a tangent, but I respect Amish people so much because they're like one of the few people that like they stick to their guns.
Yeah,
they're like,
true.
This is our beliefs. We're going to live out here in the country. We're not going to have electricity. We're not going to talk to you guys. We're going to go in and get groceries, but we're not going to mingle with you guys. And we're going to mind our business, stay in our lane. And they do it.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for like forever. And and some people lose their faith and they leave, and that's fine or whatever. But like the people that like stay in it, like they stay in it. You don't see people like taking off their Amish garb and like going and partying in the city and having like
and putting it back.
And, like, then pretending to be religious like on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, they stick to their guns, and like good, bad, or indifferent, like at least they do what they say, versus other religious people that are like, oh, well, I can do this
and that one,
but I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to put those people down. Yeah, like it's so annoying. But the movie's amazing. I know I'm like going off on some other stuff, but like the movie's really good. The plot is really interesting. Special effects are good. Each of the characters, I think, has their own little moment where they get to shine, which is really cool.
I was going to ask about that, because the cast is so large. So was there? I'm sure there wasn't an equal amount of character development for each of them, but I read that they were given enough to know their story where it didn't need more time.
It's MCU, right? So they plant stuff. So that there's going to be another one. That there's an end of the end of the credit scene. So that Kevin Feige's going to it's all part of a master plan. So that this character, if they have a small role, more than likely they're going to pop up somewhere else. So maybe, Nebula, and when she first appeared in Guardian of the Galaxies, it wasn't that big of a role. But look at how her character developed and how she like really got into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a tease. Like there are parts that you're like, oh, I wish I could see more Angelina because I'm a big fan of hers or whatever. But then you're like, well, this is just the beginning. Like this is to entice you and to introduce the character. And then we're going to see her down the line in future MCU stuff. So it sets the tone. I think that it does a good job of like you wanting more. And I look forward to more. I think that the characters, the box office turnout was great.
Yeah.
I think that proves that audiences do prefer to have, I don't say prefer. Let's say that they do support having diversity when it comes to representation in films. And I'm so glad to see that occurred and that there was a good turnout. Reviews are still mixed, which is fine. Like not everyone has to love every movie that comes out,
exactly.
But I just wanted people to give it a chance. I didn't want people to write it off based off of racism, homophobia, or like ableism. I just wanted them to be able to form an opinion based off of the actual film and not your prejudice. And so I probably will go see it again. It was a really good movie. I recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it. Go check it out. I'm excited what the characters are going to be bringing in the future. So yeah, it was really cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it at some point down the line. Like this coming week, I think ShangChi and the 10 Rings is going to be finally released on Disney Plus. So I'll finally get to watch that. So I'm a little behind, but catching up.
Hey, I mean, that one was really good too. Like I didn't expect to like Shang-Chi as much as I did. And it's a really great film. I didn't expect to like Black Widow as much as I did. Mm-hmm. And I think that they were Eternals, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, like they're all sort of like variants of like the formula that MCU has come up with. But I was ready for different stories. I'm like kind of over Iron Man. I'm tired of like that whole scene. And so like I was glad that there was like new blood, like that there was like some fresh things that were coming to screen, because it has been a long time that we've been sitting on these characters and seeing them, in all their different adventures, which I'm not complaining. I loved it. I loved all of it. But I am glad that we're starting to see new things happen.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of seeing new things happen, so I watched a few things myself this past weekend. Real briefly, I watched the first 2 episodes of Big Mouth season 5. Now, we've talked about Big Mouth on the show before. This just picks right up where it left off, and it is so hilarious. It's over the top humor. It's just, but it is so funny. I was laughing my butt off. It was just so funny, and it's there's just. I have to go back and watch it because they have so many different references to lots of different shows. I know they do like a whole Seinfeld spin-off thing at the very beginning when they're in like a diner and they're all around the table and talking. It's just, it's so funny. Nick Kroll and his whole team, I think with Andrew Goldberg, I think, or whoever his other writing partners. What's that?
Oh, never mind. I mentioned someone else, but I'm wrong.
Oh, and it's just so phenomenal. And I didn't want to binge it because I want to enjoy it. And it's just so I'm watching an episode every couple of days or something, and it's just so funny. So if you like the raunchy, comedic, late night comedy shows and humor, go watch this. It is so funny. It really is.
Yeah. I saw that it came out, and I watched the first episode, kind of like parts of it. And I just love the characters. Like, it's so funny. It's so teenage life and like brutally honest. And I forget his name, but like the old hormone monster that's like all gross.
Not Maury. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, like when he's just like he's like kind of harassing the kid to make a move, and then the kid's like, "Oh, you're my hormone monster. You're going to pay attention to what I say." And then he's like, "I'll fucking kill you." And he's like, "What? What'd you say?" Like, it just I don't know. It's hilarious. I love. The hormone monsters, they just make me laugh. Like Maya Rudolph is a genius. I love her. And the spin on the characters, like the nerdy girl and the like bisexual Armenian kid. Like it's so refreshing, but it's like because we've seen like the like raunchy high school comedies before, like
Yeah.
Porky's and American Pie, but like they made this is like such a fresh take on it that it's really funny, and the fact that it's animated, of course, like makes it funnier. So I can't wait to watch the rest of it. I think I have to go back and watch some older season just to refresh my memory of what's going on. But in a way, it's kind of like you can pick up any time because you know with it they're dealing with hormones and being a teenager. So it's like you don't really have to watch. You can kind of watch it whenever. I think
it's really funny. Watch episode 2. This song that they do in there is just it's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes. Is the one where they do with the ghost of Freddie Mercury. They do such a good job, like getting his voice down. Like the voice actor that did that, I was like shocked. I was like, he really sounds like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
which is crazy that they can do that. But yeah, I love that show. What was the other thing that you watched?
I watched a movie also on Netflix, The Harder They Fall, which is
nice.
by I think the director and writer name is James Samuel, and it's a great movie. So it focuses around cowboys, and it's okay. So I guess it's the first thing they put on there is that these people existed. So it's based on real life cowboys. Maybe their whole story is fictional, but the actual people existed in the Old West, which I thought was just fascinating. And it made me want to go learn more about their characters. Now, with the cast like Jonathan Majors, Zazie Betts, who else? Idris Elba, Lakeith Stanfield, Regina King. Wow. And it's just a power-packed bunch. And it was just great. I mean, it really was. I'm not a big Western fan. I mean, I think my biggest favorite Western film is Tombstone, but this just above that. It is just so great. It is a bit violent, but I guess the Old West was violent. So it was. It had its when I was watching it, I kept comparing back to like Tombstone, like I said, and it's just. Yeah. It had its moments where, like, in Tombstone where Val Kilmer's like, I'm your Huckleberry. So it had like that tension build moments like that. And it was just so great. But I think the standout to me was Lakeith Stanfield's character of Cherokee Bill. From the moment he entered the screen, he just commanded the attention. And to me, it was like all eyes were on him. His performance was just standout. I mean, everyone else was great, but to me, I wanted to learn more about who Cherokee Bill was. So I went back and just did some research on him, and it's just fascinating. And the soundtrack is another thing. The soundtrack is just awesome. So it really fits with the movie itself, like as most soundtracks do. But I mean, it really just adds it's like another character. It's just phenomenal. So highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, go watch The Harder They Fall.
Yeah. I am really excited. I've heard a lot of things about it, and I'm really interested for that spin on the Western of it being based more in reality, because the fact is that our history has people of color in the Wild West, and it's been so ignored. And I think that's why I hate Westerns, is because growing up in the Southwest, like specifically in Tucson, and being so close to Tombstone and knowing more about like Southwest history, and knowing that people of color really had a huge impact on the building of the West, and specifically in my home state of Arizona, and then seeing movies like Tombstone and it being like lily white. And it just kind of offended me. I was like, first of all, I hate Tombstone. That's like one of the films that I literally hate. I can't stand it. I think it's the cheesiest, corniest. I can't even tell you how
I can see that.
But my eyes, like, people in Arizona loved that movie. People like had signs of "I'll be your Huckleberry" in their house, like pictures of Val Kilmer, Doc Holliday, tattoos. Like, I literally want to throw up when I see things related to Tombstone. And again, because like it's offensive to me in the fact that like I know from a personal perspective that my family had a lot to do with the building of Arizona and Tucson specifically again. And it's just ignored in films. Like cowboys are just all white. Like, where are the indigenous people? Where are the Mexicans? Where are the African-American people? We were there. Like, look at the names of the cities. Like they're not white people names. Like all the missions and all like it's astounding. Like that. I think what Young Guns had Lou Diamond Phillips, who's Filipino, playing like a Native American indigenous person. So like they tried to have that piece of like diversity. That's the only thing that I can ever think of that they've tried to have like a spotlight on the role that people of color had in Westerns. But other than that, like people think of the Wild West as like white cowboys.
Yeah,
and it's such
true.
bullshit.
That's very true.
Like it's such bullshit. Like, and the thing that I was thinking about is like, where do you think that people learned how to be cowboys? It was from the vaqueros that were Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't come over from England wearing cowboy hats and cowboy boots and rodeo.
That's like, true. When the settlers moved west, they didn't know how to survive out there. So where do they learn it from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, and so so that's why I hate Westerns, because of that like rewriting of history and focusing on like straight white men as always in everything. So to see that like people are like, you know what, let's tell these stories that actually exist, like that are real life characters. We're not making it up. We're not recasting. We're not doing it for diversity's sake. This is actual history. Like these people really existed. One of the characters or people in history that I'm really fascinated by is this African-American woman. I believe she was a former slave and became like a stagecoach driver. And like at 60, like imagine being 60 and being such a badass that you start to become a stagecoach driver, like with her shotgun. So like obviously fighting off like people that were trying to rob her and being able to like handle her own. I forget what city she eventually kind of did as her home base, but because she was a former slave, she didn't know what her actual birthday was. But because she was so revered, the city celebrated it 2 times a year. And I thought, where is that story? Like, where's that movie based on those people? Like, I don't want to see another Kevin Costner movie with him, playing some stupid cowboy. And like, show me some more of the accurate history. People are all about accuracy and, making sure that the movies are specific to history. Well, why can't we have accuracy when it comes to Wild West movies then? Like where I could go on. Like it's so frustrating that, and the thing that's annoying is that people grow up seeing that stuff, then they begin to think that that's reality. That's and then when they see a movie that's about African Americans, the Wild West, they're like, oh, eye roll. Like, why did they have to do one with all black cast? Like, they're just doing that to be woke. No, actually, idiot. Like, why don't you educate yourself and see that those people actually existed and had a huge impact on American history? But like everything, like we rewrite history and it's not even rewriting. It's like when history was written, they just ignored all people of color and the impact that we had on history.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more it infuriates me because it impacts the way white people view people of color. Like if you are raised not seeing the contributions that groups of people have had on history, then you think that they're like losers. You're like, oh, they haven't. And that's where you see racist, misogynistic people like, well, if it wasn't for us, America would be nothing. We built, and it's like, no, back up, because actually the reality is that people of color had a huge impact. One, free labor that you didn't have to pay for in the form of slavery, but also when people became free, they became these really productive members of society and like created inventions and built cities and architects and engineers and the impact that Latinos had in the country. But let's pretend that didn't happen, because then it makes you feel better about the narrative you're trying to create. And so if you're like, so I encourage like every single filmmaker, writer, like create more stories about people of color in the settings that are unexpected. Like, I don't want to see another immigrant story. Like, I appreciate those stories, but like, let's see those other stories. Like, the thing that I think that within the Latino community that is really hasn't been touched upon is like how much Latinos are into rock and roll. And they like never talk about that. There isn't like a punk Mexican movie. There isn't a punk, like a Mexican Chicano skater movie, even though there's like legendary skateboard artists that are Mexican American. Like, why don't we tell their stories? or, or people that are artists that are African American or are Hispanic or Latino, Latinx. Why don't we have more movies about them? Like,
Yeah,
do
good
that,
point.
make those movies, because we exist in all facets of culture and pop culture, but it's so ignored.
Yeah.
And the stories are so interesting, but you have to it's so hard to have to find it and research it and seek it out yourself. It should be part of mainstream pop culture because it's been ignored for way too long.
I agree. It has. And I think you said it best when you said that people grow up seeing these predominantly whitewashed stories, and then they think that that's all there was, when it's not the case. And yeah, like even with this movie, I didn't realize, like you said, growing up with westerns that were all whitewashed, wow, there was people of color as cowboys back then. I had no idea. So I am very thankful to James Samuel for taking the time to research these characters and to bring it to the big screen for everyone else to enjoy. And the fact that it is a great movie is just bonus. So
yeah. Well, I think that's what people don't appreciate, is that they feel like that watching movies like this is like homework. Like they're like, ugh, I have to sit through some woke PC movie, like learning about history from a African American perspective. But it's like, no, you're watching like some of the greatest actors and actresses do a fictionalized retelling of actual history, and it's entertaining as fuck. Like, have fun, watch it. It's not boring. It's not a chore to do. Like, give it a chance. Like, just like you watch Kevin Costner's 18th boring ass movie, why don't you watch that movie? Can you tell I can't stand him? Give those other actors a chance to like their films, and because they're really good and they're really talented and it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And it's not a chore. It's not something that you should have to force yourself to sit through, because at the end of the day, it's going to be entertaining. You're going to be entertained.
Definitely.
So,
yeah. Speaking of being entertained, since we're on the topic of that, I challenge you. Well, we mentioned it last week, so I kind of challenge you this week. Let's talk about some comedies that are of the cult classic variety. So I wrote down just a brief. I found a description of what a cult comedy movie is. Just so you know, just to put a little bit of more of a wrapper around what we're talking about. So, like, the best cult comedy movies come in many forms and they span across decades. Some good cult comedies are silly, over the top, while others feature dry, sarcastic humor. Many of the best cult comedies were, more often than not, box office bombs, but that grew in popularity over the time and have a really distinct following amongst their, I guess, passionate fans, hence the cult portion of it. So when you think of cult comedy movies, Gabe, what comes to mind for you? Is there any specific, maybe 3 or 4 that you say, yeah, those are ones that I really enjoy?
Yeah, when I think of movies that I really enjoy watching, and I think that they're cult classics, I kind of think of movies that are probably a little bit on the silly side, that are not intellectual movies that you don't have to think a lot about. And I immediately think of all of the Adam Sandler films. So Big Daddy, Billy Madison,
Happy
Mr.
Gilmore.
Deeds. Yeah, 50 First Dates. He did such a great series of films that are ridiculously stupid, but I could sit down and watch them and laugh, and it just cracks me up. Waterboy probably being my favorite of all of his comedy films. I just the actors in it, Kathy Bates and Fairuza Balk, are 2 of my favorite people in the world. They're amazing, and they were
Henry
so
Winkler
hilarious,
too.
playing, Cajun swamp people, and the fact that they wrote a movie about that segment of the community of Cajun swamp folk, that one of them is just really an idiot savant, really great at football and doesn't know it, and then is really naive and innocent, and it's just such a good movie. It makes like if it comes on, like I will watch it at any point during the film, and it'll crack me up. I love it. It's such a good film. The other one that I think is not as like wasn't that popular, so it kind of fits that definition of not necessarily a box office smash, was Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like not the smartest. I mean, it's smart in the fact that it's like tongue in cheek, right? They're like two smart actresses. Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow are like geniuses in real life. Like they're both really, really intelligent, and they're both playing like dumb characters. But that's like part of the humor, is that they're playing people that are so dumb, but like have a really incredible, like have a heart deep down, and they're making fun of the like shallow, materialistic people of LA. And I think it came out around like that Paris Hilton moment. And the one-liners in the film are just hilarious for me. Again, they're like making fun of Tucson, Arizona, where I'm from again. So like I love that movie came out that was making fun of Tucson and showing Tucson being a bunch of like hillbillies and small-minded people. And I was like, I was pleased with that. And so that's one of my all-time favorite, again, like just for the little quotes that are from the movie. Janine Garofalo, Justin Theroux's in it, Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow, comedic geniuses. Alan Cumming is in it. I mean, there's a ton of different great actors and actresses in it that are hilarious in the movie. What about you? What are some of yours?
Well, a few of mine, like first one I thought of it was like Army of Darkness, which is like the third installation of the Evil Dead series. Now, so it's I guess you could say it's kind of a blend of comedy, horror, but for me it was pure comedy. I didn't really see any horror in it. Yes, there were skeletons in an army of Evil Dead, whatever, but for me it was just funny. Bruce Campbell is just phenomenal in that role that he's reprised so many different times, and it's one of those movies that is it grows on you, I think, the more you see it. And I think it has a following of many people that will just watch it, and I think I mean, I can quote different things from it, when he's saying the magical words and he messes them up many times, Necronomicon, whatever it is. It's just so hilarious to me, that movie. Another one of mine that I enjoyed was Dazed and Confused. So that's a 1993 movie that it's a coming of age comedy. And it has a lot of stars in it, actually, that when they were first starting out. So there's like Ben Affleck, Mila Jovovich, Parker Posey, Adam Goldberg, Matthew McConaughey, and many others. And it's just, it follows the day in the life of these high school kids that are either starting school or just graduating. And it's just, it really tells their story. And I recently just saw it for the first time, I think maybe last year. And it was really good. I really appreciated that movie.
Wow.
Yeah,
I can't believe that you just saw it. Like that's another of my favorite films. Like the cast is amazing. There's so many people that Matthew McConaughey famously, like I think that was one of his first roles and became like a star after that.
All right.
What's his name? Andy Sandberg, I think is his name. He also, what's that?
Goldberg.
And Goldberg. Yeah. Anthony Rapp from Rent is in that movie. Mm-hmm. What's her name? Ribisi. I can't think of her name. Her last name's Ribisi, but like the curly red hair actress.
Oh, okay.
Her brother is Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah, Giovanni Ribisi. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mila Jovovich is in it. Tons of people. Anyway, but the one-liners in that movie are hilarious. It just reminds me so much of high school. It's ridiculous. Like the scene where like the nerds are like driving in the car and like, oh, what do you want to do? That was like so realistic to my experience that it's not even funny. And it's just a great like slice of life, super realistic, super funny, because it's high school and teenage years are ridiculously funny. Like you looking at like being in the moment, you're terrified and you're like, I'm never going to get through this. But looking back, it's like the most ridiculous time in your life.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Parker Posey is like my favorite character in that. She's just like the uber bitch that's like terrorizing the freshmen. My favorite line is like, wipe that face off your head. And I love her. I love her in that movie. She's so great. I think she's like one of the most underrated actresses ever. I'm such a fan of Parker Posey. There's a movie called Party Girl that she's in. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it.
Okay.
It's so good. It's basically sort of a sequel to Breakfast at Tiffany's, where like it's kind of like she's Holly Golightly's daughter.
Oh,
and
okay, interesting.
She's sort of like a party girl, and she has like a reality check and has to like get a job, and it's sort of like that like 90s club kid culture, and it's so good. If you haven't seen it, like definitely stream it. It's such a good movie. Parker Posey is a genius. I love her so much. I could watch anything that she does.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's up there with like Maya Rudolph and like just people that like I love. Like I would love to be her friend.
Yeah, when you want to be their friend, I mean, I think that's the highest, like.
Yeah. Like, isn't there like stars that like you see them and you're like, I would love to be their friend. Like I want to have them in my life, or vice versa.
I agree. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
People. Parker Posey is one of those people that was like, I would love to be able to call her. I want to hang out
Hello, Parker? Yeah, hey. Or is it text nowadays? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not really a movie, but it's more of a series. It was a single season series of Freaks and Geeks. Now that's another huge cast of like Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, Linda Cardellini, Martin Starr, James Franco, created by Paul Feig and Judd Apatow. And it's another one that I saw, I think maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago for the first time. And it's just phenomenal. Another look at slice inside a high school life that it just, one season was far too short for that show. And it has its own cult following now. And it's just so great. I didn't want it to end. I didn't want to watch the last episode because I knew that once I watch it, that's it. There's no more to watch. And so it was really cool. I really like that show.
Yeah, I could actually see you being in a Judd Apatow film. Like, you're Jewish, so like check mark on that list. And like I think it'd be really fun to be in one of his films, like from an actor's point of view, because I think they do a lot of like riffing and like ad-libbing, and it looks like they just have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does.
I just recently was like rewatching for like the millionth time 40-Year-Old Virgin, and it's so funny. It's ridiculous. Like it's just the most stupid movie, but it's so funny.
I was rewatching the scene
where they're talking about hooking up with women, and the guy that plays a virgin is like, yeah, when you touch their boobs and it's like sand, and they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, it's like sand. And they're like, have you ever touched breasts before? Yeah, like 20 times. Like, it was crazy. It's just so stupid. It's so funny. I love that.
I was just watching the clip where Kevin Hart comes in and he wants I guess a return or on the warranty or something like that when he's and it's just hilarious. That movie's so funny. Yeah. Yeah.
And talk about like tons of stars in it that like, Jane Lynch is like in a supporting role, and she like really blew up after that. Who the guy that plays Ant-Man, I forget his name.
Paul Rudd is in it, right? Steve Carell.
Yeah.
It's
so many good people. I love the ending where like they finally hook up and have sex, and then like she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like breaks out into like the Fifth Dimension song, and like then they like turn into hippies and they're all dancing and singing. It's so stupid.
I think Judd Apatow movies are fantastic, like that with like, and then Knocked Up, and then like This Is 40. So I think he was asked like, when are you going to make This Is 50? Like the continuation of Paul Rudd's character. He's like, well, when Paul Rudd starts to look like he's aging, we'll make This Is 50, because I guess that's the whole joke that he's like looks like a vampire and doesn't age. Yeah,
which is odd for a white man because typically they age like spoiled milk.
Oh, gosh.
But
They just
that
start to
reminds me of
smell.
another movie that I love within that group of guys. I forget, it's Paul Rudd, and where he like doesn't have a best friend. And then what's that movie called?
Yes. Oh goodness, it's with Jason Segel as well. It's
Yeah,
I Love You, Man.
I Love You, Man. That's
Yeah.
probably another. I think that it doesn't get justice as being like hilarious,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of my favorite films. I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of those, I think that group of people, why it appeals to me is like it's such our generation.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
it's not like 19-year-old humor. It's like 30, 40-year-old some things that like are sort of, maybe haven't made their way in the world yet, and they're like kind of older, and so like that's part of the joke. But I don't know. I just think it speaks specifically to our generation,
Well,
and I think that's why I like them so much.
it
Is that I've really
does.
like characters.
I mean, I think it's the humor that we grew up with. So we live those life events that they're going through at the
Yeah,
same time that those characters would have went through those life events. So either we can relate to what they went through, or we can relate to the fact that we're going through what they are going through right now. So I think that's
yeah,
what makes it humorous to us. I like that part of the movie where, because Jason Segel doesn't pick up his dog's poop, and then Lou
yeah,
Ferrigno steps in it.
yeah. And he's like, run.
Yeah, that movie's funny. I forgot about that movie. That movie's hilarious.
Yeah, now it's actually making me want to go watch it right now.
Yeah.
So good.
Some of the other movies that I just listed, but I won't get into too much, were just like Spaceballs, Shaun of the Dead, Monty
Yeah.
Python and the Holy Grail, Big Trouble in Little China, Office Space. Of course, the quintessential cult classic movie would be Rocky Horror Picture Show. And then a movie I've never seen, which I want to see, is This Is Spinal Tap.
I've never seen that either.
Yeah, I have, for whatever reason, never seen it, but it sounds like it's a movie right in my wheelhouse because I really love musician biopics, and of course this is
Yeah.
a fake band, but it's right up in there, something that I would enjoy. I don't know why I haven't watched it.
I see, like This Is Spinal Tap. I think it's the same team that does Best in Show.
Yeah, I think so.
Does
Like Christopher Guest and them.
that type of film. And I think I've talked about this before, that sensibility of those people involved in those movies is very white people humor, and I tend to not relate to it. Just like we
Okay.
were talking about how much
Yeah.
I relate to like the Apatow universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find, like, I see the humor in it, but it's like 50%. Like I'm like, I kind of think it's funny, but it's not really. And the thing that I think that trips me out is that there are people that like love that movie, like,
Mm-hmm.
and those filmmakers, like, that I think it's Christopher Guest,
Yeah.
I think is the one that's like the genius
Yeah.
behind all of those films. And there's really talented actors and actresses that are involved in those films. But like when you put it all together and you watch it, I'm like,
Nah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like SNL skit. Like one scene's like really funny, and then you have to like sit through like a whole bunch of sketches that aren't
Okay.
funny.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that to me. Like there's like one part that's like hilarious. Then it's like these characters that are just like, it seems like they're having fun making the movie, but it's maybe not so much fun for me to watch it.
Fair enough.
I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. Like I see why they're successful. Like I get they're super talented. I just don't think it's as funny as it's just not me. I'm not their demographic.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Well, this might be the whole generational thing. So that was like, like made in '84 by maybe the generation before us. And with our sensibilities are more geared toward like Judd Apatow films, which are
Yeah.
these of our generation. So it's more the comedy styling is something that we appreciate more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there you go.
Good choices. Or I think that like another one we talked about was Airplane, which great film, like beyond cult classic. Like also, what is it called? Police Gun? Is it called Police Gun? No, Naked Gun.
Naked Gun, yeah.
Yeah, Naked Gun. I used to die as a kid. I love those movies so much. Like Leslie Nielsen, I thought was like so funny, and they were so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like the scene where they're like practicing safe sex and they're like in full
In a
body.
full. And that was
And,
like,
like I love like silly humor like that. That it's like you don't really have to think a lot about it. It's like very slapsticky and
yeah.
like dad humor and punny,
And that was
and you
like,
can just like watch it on a Sunday afternoon and like chill and laugh, and
mm-hmm.
it's funny.
And that
Yeah,
was like pre-murderous O.J. Simpson getting tossed around. So that was funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, when Orenthal James Simpson, that's his name, right? James
Yeah.
Orenthal James. When he was an actor,
Yeah.
he was a
Not a
thespian.
murderer.
OJ the thespian.
I will say, and just in closing here, and this isn't cult comedy, but have you been watching The Simpsons this season?
I haven't watched any of it.
Their writing has been really top notch this year so far. Like they
I,
just,
I have to get. I actually really regret that I haven't kept up with The Simpsons, because I famously have told everyone that knows me, like, I hope that never get canceled. I hope that like at 70, if I'm alive, like I can turn on television and watch The Simpsons.
mm-hmm.
Like I hope they're always on. I don't want them ever to be canceled. Obviously, like it's going to be hard because the actors are going to die, but it's such a comfort for me to watch The Simpsons. I've literally been watching them since I was like in the third grade.
Yeah.
That's how long they've been on.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings me so much just comfort and joy to like watch older episodes that like I know what they're going to say. I know the lines, I know the characters. And for whatever reason, I just haven't kept up with them because I've gone on to like other shows, because there's just so much out there. But that's one of the things that like I want to get back into, is watch newer episodes of The Simpsons, because I love them. I think it's one of the like smartest, well-written comedy shows
mm-hmm.
ever.
Yeah, and this season's been really good. They just did this past week. They did the first part of a 2-part series about Flanders, but it's written like in a Coen Brothers style of storytelling. So it's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
Speaking of the Coen Brothers, I read this article, and then we'll move on. But there's this thing that's been bugging me, is that the issue being the Coen Brothers and Tim Burton being very popular, right? They're great filmmakers. Mm-hmm. I love their films. However, apparently people have been asking both Tim Burton and the Coen Brothers, why are your films nothing but white people? Okay. And Tim Burton said, and I can't quote him, so this is like filtered through my,
paraphrased.
Basically said that his aesthetic doesn't fit in with like people of color. And I was like, ugh, like that's like, and Samuel L. Jackson, I think, is the first person of color to be in one of his movies. It was Miss Peregrine's School, or whatever that movie was. And that tripped me out. Like that almost turned me off on Tim Burton, because I love his films. I love his aesthetic. I love his like little goth eccentric, vibe. And what's sad to me is that so many people of color, I think, like his films and relate to their characters as being like the outcast and like the misfit. And then to not be able to see yourself like, because you don't fit his aesthetic, like that's weird.
That's weird.
And then the Coen Brothers said like, well, we make films, and sometimes when you make a film about like the South, it's not about the black people or, the Latinos. Well, I'm like, wait, you make movies about like the South and don't have black people in it? Like, or
that's
you
strange.
make films about like, I think Raising Arizona. So you have Arizona. There was like no indigenous people or Latino people. I lived in Arizona. Like they're everywhere. We're everywhere. And then they had like weird accents that were like not Arizonian accents. Like, so like you're not really.
Maybe that was just Nick Cage not being able to act. I don't know.
Well, no, like what's her face? Holly Hunter had like she has the weirdest accent to begin with.
Does.
Like she had a weird accent, and then like their friends had like super weird Southern accents. So it was like, is that a Southern movie or is it a movie based in Arizona? Because that's not. What? It wasn't even in Arizona, was it? I think it was in Texas, wasn't it?
Right, I think it might have been Texas. I think the baby name was Arizona, or they named the baby Arizona.
I'm like going off on something that is not even real. The whole point being like, though, like there's black people in Texas, there's Hispanic people in Texas too. And the Coen brothers have like yet to find a way to integrate their films.
Right.
Like, that's so weird to me that they're like instead of just being like, you know what, you're right. Like, I've just worked with this group of actors and I've never really thought about diversity. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'm going to work towards trying to integrate different, you know, people from different diversity dimension into my films. But instead they double down and they're like, that's just not my aesthetic. Really? There's no goth Latinos that you know, or like misfit black people. Like, go to like the Afro Punk Festival in New York and just see all the like alternative lifestyle, like punk, goth black people there are, and you'll realize that like there's a lot of us that are into that type of stuff. Like, throw us a bone and like cast us in your movie.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't always have to be the woman that you're screwing that you're going to put in the movies, Tim. Like, Helena Bonham Carter or Lisa Presley, like not Lisa Presley. What's her name? Lisa Marie. It's like, you managed to fit your girlfriends in the movies. Like, is that your aesthetic? Like, you have to be able to have sex with someone to be able to put them in your movie. Well, anyway, it really bugged me.
Let's say on a positive note, the opposite of them would be like the Farrelly brothers, who are super inclusive with their casting and their filmmaking choices. So yeah, just to kind of balance it out there. I don't know.
Yeah. And I respect them for that. And it makes their movies more interesting. That it's not the same old people. Like, I mean, in a certain respect, I do like filmmakers that have like their go-to actors that they recast in their movies. But if I see another like Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, like, I don't want to see that. No one does.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. We're over that. It's done. That's like in the past. Let's move forward. Get a new actor to work with.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm right here.
Right. I don't think you fit his aesthetic.
I just have to sleep with him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. There you go. Sleep your way to the middle.
Well, on that note, everyone, we will see you all next week.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Stay safe.